Then, T minus a month to the day for Tom Brady. We'll tell you exactly what happens next for the 6th-time Super Bowl champ. And you've got to be kidding me. How did the best dunk contest in years turn into the worst ending we've ever seen? We'll answer those and other questions as we get up with you on this President's Day on ESPN. And if it seems a little excited in the room this morning, it is because we have some special visitors. Yes. First of all, Darius Leonard is here, ladies and gentlemen, from the Indianapolis Colts. And then just a moment of awe. Doris Burke is here for the first time. Doris, it is wonderful to have you. Thank you for making your way here. And you came on a perfect day.
Great.
Because last night, Team LeBron and Team Giannis put on a show, the likes of which we were hoping we would see, and candidly, not many of us bought into. 2020 NBA All-Star Game, Team LeBron, Team Giannis, wearing the numbers 2 and 24, respectively, for Kobe and Gianna Bryant. The team's holding an 8-second moment of silence to honor the passing of both Kobe and David Stern. And then a game played after a beautiful tribute. And early, Doris, it was all Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard goes for 8 threes. He was surgical. How often do you describe somebody in an All-Star game as surgical?
7 threes in the first half alone. He had 25 in the first half. Team LeBron would win the first quarter, and that's $100,000 for the Chicago Scholars. That was the organization they were playing for. Then how about Trae Young late in the second?
This guy is ridiculous with his range. Watch the reaction of his teammates. Number one, much more competitive in the second quarter. Giannis came out with a purpose because he lost the first quarter.
And Team Giannis would win the second, and so that's $100,000 for after school matters. Third quarter, now we get a little fancy action here. Here's Kemba and Joel Embiid.
Joel Embiid is a 7-footer doing a windmill dunk. Good night, folks. Look at this windmill finish.
That's actually a little nutmeg pass through LeBron's legs. Team Giannis up by 4. Later, Team LeBron is down 2, and there's LeBron.
LeBron James, I was told prior to the game, was annoyed with some of the things they had to do behind. He wanted to win this basketball game.
Yeah, this thing would get very competitive starting late here in the third, which, by the way, would end in a tie. So the charity would carry over then to the fourth quarter, as would everything else riding on it. And let's remind you of how they changed it this year. In the fourth quarter, the clock was turned off. Instead of playing until time hit 0, they played to a target score. That score determined by adding 24 points in honor of Kobe Bryant to the leading team after 3 quarters. So, with the team leading at 133, add 24. The first to 157 would be the winner. Here we go. Fourth quarter, looking for 157. Team LeBron is down 6. And look at Giannis playing defense like he cares.
Best defense I've ever seen played individually in an All-Star game. Not a single fast break point was given up in the fourth quarter. You want to talk about guys guarding and it mattering? It did.
Kawhi, again, getting serious. Again, that little mid-range game. That ties it at 150. First team with 7 points at that point would be the winner. Then it's Kemba, no good. We're going to wind up going the other way, and it's LeBron for Anthony Davis.
One thing that's interesting here is you get to about 154 points as Anthony goes up high. We've seen this all season. It changed your strategy. All of a sudden, they start going for 3 after 3. It allows this to happen. Joel with a sweet little move.
And that tied it at 152. You're right. There was strategy in the fourth quarter of an All-Star game. And then there was controversy. Embiid fighting down low. There's a foul called. LeBron is enraged. There's a challenge light, so they take another look, and they actually overturn the call to a jump ball. Doris, you like it?
I do. I love it. You want to get it right. You could tell by the way guys were protesting calls how much this mattered.
All right, LeBron could have won it there with a 3. Instead, he goes to the hole. This is blocked by Giannis. Goaltending is called, but they're going to review this one, too.
This was so close. They looked at this for a good 5 or 6 minutes. I still can't tell. I believe they said it was a clean block.
They did. They ruled it a clean block. So now, later in the fourth, James Harden stepping into Kyle Lowry. But hold everything. They're going to call this an offensive foul.
Good call. I thought it was a charge. He gets away with it all year, not in the All-Star game.
They're calling it tight in the All-Star game. Spike Lee loves it. So Harden with the push-off there. Now we go to a couple of possessions later. Team LeBron up 156-155, taking it to the hole.
I like that. They had taken too many threes. LeBron finally discards the defender, says, let me get us close.
Then here comes the moment. There's the foul. LeBron's team needs just 1 point, and Anthony Davis is fouled inside. LeBron says it's over. AD just needs to make a free throw, and we're done here. But hold on. He misses the first. He would say later he missed it on purpose to apply more pressure to himself in his hometown. You can believe that. if you choose. Meanwhile, he would knock down the second, and that's your ball game. Team LeBron wins it 157-155. The kids from Chicago Scholars are thrilled. Kawhi wins the first ever Kobe Bryant MVP. All in all, quite a night.
I didn't know what to expect because it was a new format, new year. We didn't know, none of us knew what to expect. But throughout the whole fourth quarter and at the end of the game, everybody was like, that was pretty damn fun.
Fourth quarter, the defense got tighter. Guys would hit one another, every possession count. It was you had a little bit of playoff intensity out there, so I loved it. I hope they can keep the same format for a lot of years. And I think people had fun, we had fun, so that's what it's all about.
All right, and to the point that Doris made in the highlight, these teams played hard in the fourth quarter. After both teams had 50 fast break points in the first three, there were none in the final quarter. There were more fouls called in the last quarter than the first three combined, and the shooting was way down in the fourth quarter compared to the nearly 60% it was in the first three.
Greeny, you said this off the top. It might have been the best quarter or even one of the better games of the NBA season all season long. What would you say about that format of the fourth quarter, Doris?
Number one, I don't normally watch this game. I might be cleaning, I might be vacuuming. That's how little appeal it had for me in the past. I was locked to my TV. Yeah. This was the best All-Star game I've seen in 25 years. I thought the competition was incredible. And leave it to Kobe Bryant to have the last statement. They were thinking originally of that number in the fourth quarter being 35. We would have still been playing the basketball game. To go to 24 was absolutely perfect. And I thought the most special thing the NBA was able to do was somehow have the grace to navigate honoring Kobe and Gianna and still giving an incredible show to their incredible fans. It was so well done.
I agree completely. You have to sort of take those two in separate pieces. The way they honored, and David Stern as well,
yes.
which was a very difficult month for the NBA, obviously, the month of January. So I thought all of that was beautifully handled. And then to the game itself. I have a phrase I use all the time. Laura hears me say it all the time about college football overtime. It's contrived nonsense.
Yes.
Generally, I don't like contrived nonsense. But in a game like this, where the stakes are what they are, which is to say they're not all that significant, I actually thought it worked. I thought it worked extremely well, way better than it would have if there had been a clock.
They fixed it. They honestly fixed it, because I know that the first three quarters, we showed you those numbers. It was still competitive, Mike. Once LeBron won quarter one, Giannis came out like he was playing in a finals game, and he made sure his team won the second quarter. Then strategy played into the third. It ends up being played evenly. They go into the last quarter 9 down. Well, what happens? The leader in charges taken. This guy gives up 2 charges, Kyle Lowry. LeBron James was a man on a mission. The MVP, Kawhi, was absolutely stunning. This was the best All-Star game, again, I've seen in 25 years.
Are there any concerns, and I think I know what you're going to say here, about some of these All-Stars going all out, especially in that fourth quarter, just from the health standpoint?
I get that, but I always have believed if you're playing at the competitive high that you can play at, you're less likely to get injured. And what I know after listening to the people, presidents, GMs, PR, media, and the players, most importantly, they love the format. They want to see it stick.
No, they're keeping score for a reason, right? I mean,
no question.
At some point, they're keeping score because the idea here is you want the teams to want to win. I do agree, however, with the premise of the question, which is this is supposed to be a break. This is a time in the season that even the players who are all-stars are supposed to be able to take a little bit of a rest. And in particular, the guy like LeBron James, who is logging as many minutes as he is, playing as hard as he is at his age, I can see where, if you're his coach, and his coach was there last night, obviously, that might be a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. This man is third all-time in minutes played. We're going to discuss this later in the show. Obviously, there's always concerns about injury, about, does he pull a hamstring? Does he miss 4 or 5 games? And does that put that #1 seed in jeopardy? But I think for the fans, to honor the fans, the way you have to play the game, this was perfectly done.
Okay, so we all things considered, consider that to be a huge win last night. The entire NBA All-Star Weekend really did dominate the conversation, and a little later in the program this morning, as Doris is with us all day, we'll talk about Saturday night, which was, to quote, the greatest novel ever written, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times, all in one night. In the meantime, let's get to the NFL.
Yeah, great times in the NFL. There's so much to talk about with Tom Brady, and this weekend, ESPN's Patriots reporter Mike Reese wrote that there has been no movement between Brady and the Patriots. Reese added that the Pats are, quote, expected to seek clarity on Brady's intentions before the start of free agency on March 18th, and reasserted his belief that there is an 80% chance Brady returns to New England. So everybody's trying to figure out, what is Tom Brady going to do here? People putting percentages on it all over the place. Mike Reese, as I just said, says 80% Brady goes back to New England. As we welcome in our football guys here, Dan, you think that Brady is not going to return to New England. Why?
Well, I just don't see him being their first free agent signing because, again, how do the Patriots sell to Tom Brady? We're not going to put you in the same situation as last year. People need to look at the makeup of this football team right now. Like, this was a team that was 3-3 last year against teams with winning records. So they didn't dominate good football teams or play well. They beat the Bills twice out of those 3 wins. Second of all, people can tie A.J. Green there. Well, A.J. Green could get franchise tag in Cincinnati. Go sign Hunter Henry. You can't afford Hunter Henry if you're also going to pay Tom Brady. Their offensive line, they're probably going to lose Joe Thuney as a right guard. They could lose their center. David Andrews could come back. Karras, the guy who played for him, will probably be gone as well. I just don't see how Tom Brady could be their first guy, free agent signing-wise, because what is Bill Belichick going to do? Promise that he'll remake this offense? And if everyone goes, like, go back to that dominant defense as well. Kyle Van Noy's a free agent. Jamie Collins is a free agent. McCourty's a free agent. Like, this team has multiple people that could be leaving this organization that minimize. I just don't see how Tom Brady can go back.
Why are you shaking your head?
Well, because Tom Brady is the first chip, and I'm sitting around the man that gave me a lot of money, and it's all about accounting, right? So it's all about accounting. Bill Belichick can work the reorganizing or restructuring contracts. It's plenty of free agents, but you have nothing. Absolutely nothing if you don't have Tom Brady. And the Patriots need to address that first. They need to make sure that this is the biggest chip. They don't have a backup plan. I mean, Jarrett Stidham is not the answer for the future. You know, they watched their backup quarterback of the future in the Super Bowl this year. So if they don't address, Tom Brady, then maybe they're in a rebuild mode or a reload mode where they have to start over again. You convince everybody else to sign after you get Tom Brady. He may be able to tell some of those free agents, hey, stay because Tom's staying. They're going to leave Tom. If Tom's not there, they're going to leave.
Yeah, Tom Brady at the Super Bowl said, I will not be wearing a blazer at next year's Super Bowl. And I don't think Tom Brady can sit back and look at this football team and be honest about that comment and go, this is my best chance to go win a Super Bowl.
I got 3 words for you. Jets, Miami, Buffalo. Easier path.
They have the hardest schedule in football next year.
Mike Tannenbaum, talk me through the way this thing works. We are 4 weeks to the day until the process begins, the legal tampering or whatever they call it before free agency. Give us a sense of what happens.
Yeah, so look, Reedy, I have a lot of experience signing plus 40-year-old quarterbacks. Brett Favre, Vinny Testaverde. So it comes down to 3 things: the offensive line, the offensive line, and the offensive line. So, and here they were, and they both played well because we had good offensive lines. So they're going to spend the next month, Greeny, making sure that the offensive line is there because Tom Brady has to be in a position where he can be protected. That's why I see New England as the perfect spot. Isaiah Wynn, their centers come back, David Andrews, and they could franchise Joe Thuney. I think the Chargers are out. They have a below-average offensive line. And to Bart's point, once they have Tom Brady, the other teammates will want to come back to play with him.
What do you think, Darius?
I actually think he'll stay. Being in New England his whole career, when you think about Patriots, you think about Tom Brady. And I really don't think that he want to leave anything that he started, and I really think Bill Belichick them are going to do everything in their will to keep him there.
To what degree do players around the league talk about this? And we're talking about one of the genuinely the top linebacker in the entire sport on a team in the same conference. I mean, is this the kind of thing that if you and he were to cross paths, might you say, hey, we've got St. Elmo Steakhouse in Indianapolis, all sorts of other things you might enjoy?
We talk about that throughout the season or, in the offseason now. We look at stuff like that because, he's a great quarterback. We see him play, we got to play against him. He's a great quarterback in this whole league, and, that's a guy that you would love to have, a guy who you love to build your team around.
He sells instant hope. You bring a quarterback like that in, I don't care how good your defense was, how good your running game, he makes everybody around him better because he does all the little Jedi mind trick games. I can see him still being competitive in that division. He's still a good quarterback.
I agree with that. But who is he going to throw the football to? Like,
It's called free agency.
The kid's
free agency. Who's available in free agency?
He's also taking, to Dan, I think your point is he's taking a leap of faith if he does it, because they will have to get him done before they get any of these.
And that's the challenge, is how can New England sit there and say, we're going to go get AJ? You can't prove to Tom Brady that you can get those guys. And I want to make sure to hammer, this team has the toughest schedule in football in 2020.
His division
they were
also
3-3 against winning teams last year. They play San Francisco, Baltimore, Kansas City, Seattle, Houston. Like they have a brutal schedule.
All right, we will, as the morning continues, try and figure this thing out as far as Tom Brady. But here's the thing that no one can figure out. The story everyone is talking about, the Houston Astros caught cheating in a sign-stealing scandal and subsequent apologies that seem to have angered the entire sport of baseball even further. Among those, not listening, or certainly not listening sympathetically, the Dodgers MVP, Cody Bellinger.
I thought the apologies were whatever. I thought Jim Crane's was weak. I thought Manfred's punishment was weak, giving him immunity. I mean, these guys were cheating for 3 years. I think what people don't realize is Altuve stole an MVP from Judge in 17. Everyone knows they stole the ring from us.
No, it's not just other major league teams that have taken offense. 2 Little League teams have removed the Astros as potential team names for the kids to play on in Long Beach and East Fullerton, California. Commissioner Rob Manfred spoke yesterday with our Carl Ravitch on the lasting impact of the scandal.
One of the most important things that has to happen, people are never going to forget about it, but to move on from it, is for the entire organization, starting from the top, owner all the way through the players, to accept responsibility and to apologize not only to their fans, but to the fans across the other 29 teams. That's going to be an ongoing process here. It didn't get done the other day.
Most people will describe it as an epic failure. How would you describe it?
It was not successful.
All right, Jeff Passan is with us from West Palm Beach. He's been covering the Astros since spring training began. Jeff, I see the look on your face. Manfred said it has not been successful, the apology tour, if you will. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, he was talking about Jim Crane's performance last Thursday, but I think it was not successful is a fantastic encapsulation of this entire thing since Rob Manfred's report came out on January 13th. From the players to the front office to the commissioner's office, there has been a lot of failure in trying to bottle this thing up. And that was really the intent from the start, right? You want to take a controversy, you want to get out there as much as you can publicly about it, and then you want it to run its natural course of dying down. But what's happened instead, Greeny, is this thing has, for lack of a better term, gone on steroids, and it continues to get bigger and bigger by the day.
And so now what? Manfred has done what he's done. He did the news conference yesterday and spoke to Ravi, and he's spoken to others. What can he or anyone do now to try to stop the bleeding, if you will?
You know, the problem here, Greeny, is that there are so many different balls left to drop still. I mean, the Red Sox are being investigated, and their punishment, Rob Manfred said yesterday, or the extent of the report is going to be put out next week. So you have the Red Sox. You have Alex Cora, who's facing suspension. Carlos Beltran has yet to talk at this point. They're going to start playing games soon, and when they do, we're going to see if Houston Astros batters get hit. And the Astros, I don't think, are done talking either. And, you know, their backs are against the wall, and rather than taking their medicine, they have taken the tack of fighting back, of saying, yes, we're sorry, but... And it's that caveat that's really important and interesting to see that they continue to take.
Let's let everyone hear a little bit of that if they haven't yet. This is Carlos Correa, who spoke the other day with Ken Rosenthal in defense of his teammate, Jose Altuve.
2019, nobody wore buzzers. Nobody wore buzzers. That's a lie. The reason Jose Altuve didn't want to get his shirt ripped off, one, because his wife had told my wife early in the year for me to not do that, so he was telling me to not do it. And number two, he had an unfinished tattoo that looked kind of bad that he didn't want people to see and people to talk about. That was the reason. Altuve has played the game clean, always, always. He earned the MVP. He hit the home run of Chapman, fair and square.
So that's what Correa said. Jeff, why has that defense of his teammate fallen so flat?
It's fallen flat because I think what the public wants the Astros to do is just say, yeah, we did it, we're sorry, and we're going to do everything we can going forward. And you can't have a defense of yourself or your team when you've cheated. You can't have moral authority and try and stand on that leg. And, you know, as crazy as this has gone, as much as this has spun out of control, Clubhouse opens here in 40 minutes. I have no idea whatever's going to happen. That's the thing about this. Jose Altuve could go in there today and say, hey, guys, look at my tattoo, and it would surprise nobody at all.
Well, the one thing that's for certain is you'll be in there to see it, and if there's anything worth reporting, please jump back with us here. We'll be waiting to hear from you. It's a crazy situation around baseball. We'll take our first break of the morning, but we're just getting started on what is a very busy day. Coming up, Mason Rudolph is adamant that he did not use a racial slur against Myles Garrett during their incident last season. We'll express why this is a situation that has to be addressed immediately. And then the dunk contest, exciting, spectacular. Why was the ending such a disaster? We'll talk about all that and more. We're just getting started. You're watching Get Up on ESPN.